Daniel Sports Central will be over a college football bowl preview and prediction on the 2021 Gasparilla Bowl matchup between the UCF Knights and the Florida Gators. Huge in-state matchup coming up here in the Gasparilla Bowl. Should make for a great matchup, and we'll be going for a full game preview and prediction on this bowl game here today. Starting out with your team trends. UCF beat South Florida 17-13. That was in the last game of the regular season for the Knights, and they finished out the season at 8-4. Not a bad season for UCF. I mean, this is a football team that down the stretch, they've taken some bad injuries. I mean, I feel like this team is kind of underachieved in this 2021 season. I mean, UCF was a contender in the American Athletic. I mean, it's been a good season for UCF, but this is a football team that I certainly think could have gone a bit farther. But once again, those injuries have affected this team quite a bit down the stretch. But UCF 8-4, not a bad season, and they've got a huge opportunity here against Florida, the Florida out of Gainesville. I mean, this is a football team that, I mean, they haven't played since 2006. These two teams haven't played in over a decade, which is kind of surprising knowing UCF and Florida obviously in the same state. But yeah, for Florida, beat Florida State 24-21. They have struggled this season. Just a huge disappointment. I mean, this has been one of the most, I'd say, disappointing teams in the nation this season. And I think most people if you're a Florida fan or not, you can agree with that. And I mean, of course, Dan Mullen being fired, that had a huge toll on this season as well. I mean, just down the stretch, this Florida team kind of fell apart. I mean, after that LSU lost 49-42 back in mid-October, I mean, this football team has just not looked the same ever since. I mean, they played pretty well in the first 5 or 6 games or so. I mean, they lost to Kentucky, but I mean, Kentucky's a pretty good football team this season. But I mean, you lost to Georgia 34-7, lost to South Carolina. That was a terrible loss, 40-17. I mean, you allowed 52 points to Samford and lost to Missouri as well. So I mean, for Florida, I think Dan Mullen, he had to be fired. I mean, just looking at how it went for him the past season, I mean, it just did not. I mean, it's been a football team that's kind of struggled down the stretch, but still, huge opportunity for both these teams. This is a game with a lot at stake here. I mean, it's an in-state battle in Tampa. I mean, there's a lot at stake here for both these teams, and I mean, for UCF, this is going to be a very motivated football team here in UCF, so Florida's got to be ready. Game will be on Thursday, December 23rd, Tampa, Florida, and your kickoff time is 7 p.m. Eastern time. Spread's going with Florida here by 6.5 points, so Gators are actually significantly favored in this matchup, and your over-under is going 55.5 as of right now, and FPI is going with Florida as well, 66.8%. So Gators are favored pretty significantly in this matchup. Series history, Florida leads it 2-0. So obviously your win streak is Florida by 2. Last time we saw these two teams play each other was in 2006. So it's been over a decade since we saw UCF and Florida play each other. So definitely this is a very interesting matchup here. I mean, you got UCF, who's one of the better teams in the American Athletic, definitely kind of a dark horse in that conference because, I mean, Cincinnati's kind of overshadowed them all season long. And then you got Florida, who's struggled all season long. I mean, it's a very intriguing matchup, and Florida, of course, out of the SEC, and this team was expected to be a 9-10 win football team this season, so it's been an interesting year for both teams, certainly. Here's your stat comparison for this game. UCF's got 32 points per game, 25 points allowed, 211 passers a game, 180 rush yards, and then for yards allowed, you got 213 passing, and then 155 for rushing. As for Florida, 31 points per game, 26 points allowed, 261 passers a game, 201 rush yards, and then for yards allowed, 208 passing, 153 for rushing. So lots of similarities here between these two teams statistically. Both teams are pretty balanced with rushing and passing. Offensively and even defensively, both teams are pretty much the same as well. So that makes it even more interesting. Recent matchups, UCF, of course, beat South Florida, beat UConn as well in their past 2 games. Lost to SMU 28-55. Just a bad loss there for UCF. I mean, SMU is a pretty good football team as well. I mean, they finished out the season at 8-4, but I mean, they were 4-4 in conference. But yeah, that was just a tough loss there and kind of an outlier on this schedule. I mean, this team played pretty consistent on the stretch. They beat Tulane, beat Temple as well, 49-7. That was a road win. So I mean, we've seen some pretty impressive performances. And I mean, if you look at the beginning of the season, they were 3-3 at one point. Lost to Cincinnati by several touchdowns. Lost to Navy by 4. That was a bad one. Also lost to Louisville by a touchdown. But if you're looking at some good wins here, I mean, they beat Boise State in the first game of the season. Once again, you beat Temple like 49-7, which is huge. Beat Memphis as well. Beat South Florida. So certainly, I mean, there's some good wins here down the stretch. But obviously, Florida being in the SEC, I mean, 13 out of 14 SEC teams are going to a bowl game this season. So it's a much tougher conference. But yeah, for the Gators, beat Florida State 24-21. Lost to Missouri in overtime, 23-24. Beat Samford, allowed 52 points to Samford. 70-52 was the final score there. Lost to South Carolina, just a terrible loss, 17-40, and also lost to Georgia, 34-7. Some key points for this matchup: UCF 8-4, have won 5 of their last 6, so this team does have some pretty good momentum heading into this matchup, and motivation going to be a huge factor in this game, and that's why it's so intriguing, because you got UCF who they're going to be motivated. They're going to be super motivated in this game, I can guarantee you, because they're playing Florida. This is a huge opportunity for them. But for the Gators, on the flip side, you got a 6-6 football team. It's been a very disappointing season, and you just fired your head coach. How is Florida going to come into this game? Are they going to be completely flat, or are they going to be motivated? Is going to be the big question here, because Florida, in my opinion, the Gators have got more talent in this game. There's no doubt. Florida, this is a football team that I expected to see, as did many others. Some people were expecting them to be a big SEC contender, potentially win the SEC East again. But this year has been a much different story. At 6-6, they've lost 4 of their last 6. Just fired their head coach once again. Been a tough season, but once again, this is also a big game for them. To finish out the season with a win, go into the offseason with a good feeling under your belt there with a win against UCF, and potentially build on from there. So this is actually a game with some pretty high stakes here. And Florida, they've played a tougher schedule as well than UCF. So even though the record isn't quite as good, they have played some pretty tough opponents down the stretch. But anyway, that being said, let's go ahead and get to the prediction here for UCF and Florida. Definitely a very intriguing matchup. I'm going to go with Florida here, 28-24, and this is basically a coin toss for me. Both teams are extremely talented. You got a motivation factor, which is going to be pretty key in this game. UCF is going to be very motivated, and it's just a matter of how Florida is going to be once again. If they come out flat, they're obviously going to lose, because UCF is going to be very motivated in this game at 8-4 and playing off against one of their in-state football teams in Florida. So definitely an intriguing matchup for that very reason. But I'm going to go with Florida here. I just feel like, Florida, they should win this game. Talent-wise, they are better. It's just a matter of how they show up and how they perform from the start, because obviously it's been a tough month. It's been a tough couple of months for this Florida football team. But how will they handle the adversity is going to be a big question in this game. But I'm going to go with the Gators here, 28-24. It's going to be a close one. And certainly, though, huge credit to UCF. They've had a good season. But, for Florida, obviously, this is also a crucial game for them to go out with a good win on the season and go into the offseason feeling good. But anyway, over-under is 55.5. I'm going to take the under for this game and UCF to cover as well. The spread is 6.5 points. I think that's kind of heavy towards Florida, so I am pretty confident that UCF does cover the spread here. We'll just see what happens there with the score. But yeah, I'm going to go 28-24 here with Florida getting the win. Let me know your thoughts and comments below, and I appreciate you guys all watching. As always, stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. I'll see you later.